my dream, my dream, my dream, my dream, my dream. Tell you my dream is to live my dream. Hear the most I in me sleep when me sleep. Tell you my goal.
Hello to you and welcome to this edition of My Dream. My name is Sharon Chirwa. Today we feature an interpretation designer by the name of Grace Tembo as she tells us exactly how she is living her dream.
That's a very vague question. I feel like there's layers to who I am. I'm a designer, I'm an artist, I'm a creative in all. I think I'm just a passionate person. I'm the last born of 4 kids, and I kind of grew up with my brothers too. So I have 2 brothers and 1 sister, and she's much older and she stays in the States. And I kind of grew up with my brothers at home playing video games. We loved computers, we loved anything that's nerdy and geeky. So I kind of just grew up with them and just absorbing who they were. And I was always fascinated with them being tech geeks and knowing how to fix computers. Well, I used to think that I would probably be an astronaut because I watched a lot of shows and cartoons about kids going out of space. I really watched about the universe a lot of times. I felt like maybe I could be out of space one day, maybe I could help and find problems. But it felt so far-fetched, so I kind of just stayed back and said, I kind of love drawing, so maybe I can be an artist instead. So I used to draw a lot. Definitely sports because of my brothers. Basketball, I hated football because I couldn't dribble a ball. I loved being creative because one of my brothers was actually an artist. He would always spend time in his room drawing Dragon Ball Z, Naruto, different animations and stuff. And I was like, hey, that's pretty cool. And he did it just out of what he saw on TV. Back then, you didn't really have like a DVD or something that you say, okay, let me pause this, or a picture. He actually would watch Dragon Ball Z on TV, and then he would start sketching while he was looking at the cartoon. And I thought that was pretty cool. And I wanted to do something like that. And my other brother was actually more into IT as well. So I would always see him on the computer and say, maybe I could try that. So I'd always use my mom's computer, but she would never let me because I was a kid and, But still, I'd try and play video games on their computer games. And I kind of just had that love for tech and being an artist. That felt like a very big decision because being a kid, you don't really think about becoming a successful person or maybe thinking of a more stable job, being an economist or architect. You want to do what you love. So for me then, I felt like if I love drawing, maybe I can take this forward. But at school it's a bit different. You learn everything and you have to be good at everything, which I wasn't. But I noticed that I was good at IT. Every time we had a test, I would ace that quickly, and all my friends would be like, Grace, how did you open an Excel sheet? And I'm like, we have a computer at home. And I love drawing too, so those 2 things were actually the biggest thing that I focused on as my selective classes, I think you get. So I did craft design technology, which is like craft work, building tables and chairs. I love that too because I love to work with my hands and solve problems too. Right, so I studied interaction design. So interaction design at the time didn't even make sense to me, but it's basically learning how to understand the user's perspective. I'll give you a scenario where, let's say you use Facebook, right? And who are the people who create Facebook? It's so easy to say, I'll just create a layout of how Facebook looks like, but there are minds behind Facebook who know how you think. There's a psychology behind it. To say if you tap on the like button, right, it ignites something within you. It's how do you respond to the app itself. I don't know if that makes sense. I know it's a bit more abstract, but let's say you have emojis. Someone created that. They knew that if you put a smiling emoji, a lot of people would use that. So that's interaction design. It's how you interact with smart objects, smart devices. Well, my parents didn't even know what it was. They're like, interaction design. So you interact with people? I said, yes, I do. They're like, how are you gonna make money then? What is it exactly? My dad didn't know. Like, I think into second year, he figured it out. But at the time he was like, okay, just do it. But I explained to him and then it kind of made sense to him to say, oh, it's how I interact with an app, whether I like it or not. So it's my job to make something that you would love and someone else would love and someone else would love. I think firstly, I'll talk about two of the parents first. I think have an open mind with your child. I know it's very difficult being in Malawi to say, I want to be a dreamer. You have to be practical sometimes because it kind of helps to be grounded to get a proper job. You know that you can get a good career, you can get a good job, that you can get some money. But being a creative in Malawi is a bit difficult because we haven't really had a platform where it's praised. You know, we don't really hear a lot of people who have done big things to say, I've worked for Google in California. You've never heard of a Malawian doing all those things. So it's always a safe bet to say my child will be an architect, accountant, or doctor. But I think give your child a chance and see really if they truly are into that craft, because sometimes it's a phase. They're not quite sure. But I think have an open mind and really hear them out and see what they're creating and see what they're doing. So it kind of gauges to say, okay, maybe my kid can actually do this. But at the same time, being a teenager, you don't really know what you want. You want to please your parents, you want to do what makes you happy. How do you find a balance in between? It's a big struggle, but I think if you really look inside who you are, see what you're really good at, and see what you can make a career out of, there's always a balance. Something just works out, it just connects. I think that's how it worked out for me. I didn't start off as being an interaction designer. I was a graphic designer. So I used to make posters for weddings and, you know, my cousin who's a rapper. So my dad would be like, yeah, but that won't get you anywhere. But I really got back and I researched a bit more online to say, what can I do as a graphic designer? And then that's when I realized, oh, there are other elements into design that I can incorporate, which was interaction design. I think firstly, for people who don't know, I'm a photographer. So before the design element, I used to take pictures on my phone. I kind of grew up just loving taking photos and I love to keep memories. So when I was getting older, I thought I could use that, not a hobby, but into a career for me. So I started off being a freelancer and I felt like I didn't make a mistake. It felt so natural to say, I can take photos of people and they love them. And I said, okay, fine, this is something that could make me some money, but what can I do in academia that I know that I have a good career path, which was graphic design. So I thought if I could put those two together, I would never make a mistake. So firstly, my biggest challenge was convincing my parents to say, believe in me, I'll be a designer, I'll be an artist, not a starving artist. And then trusting me to take that choice for my life because they do care about me. They want me to have a good job. So I think that trust element is a big challenge, especially being from Malawi, knowing that they care about you, but then again, they want you to pursue that's something that you want. So I had to prove to them all the time by, let's say, doing birthdays, I'll get paid, I'll show them this is how much I made, graphic design, this is the companies that I've worked with. that was my challenge, proving to them constantly that I'm not making a mistake. Secondly is having the equipment. The tech world is very expensive because you need to have the latest product to be ahead of time, to be, ahead of the trends, to be with the trends. So I think keeping up with that, you need to have internet. So that's a big challenge too, because internet in Malawi is very expensive. Your parents will just think you're playing on there, but you're really learning YouTube, you're watching YouTube videos. You have online courses that you need to pay for sometimes to get extra lessons. That's another challenge. So having the finance to really feed into your dream. But it's a good challenge. It makes you want to solve your problems. I think that's what it means being a designer. You have to solve problems. Another challenge is, I think, comparing yourself to your friends. Because you find your friends who are lawyers, they're doctors. That's kind of intimidating because you're just an artist. To you, it seems like I'll never make enough money and they will make a lot of money more than me. But I think if you don't compare yourself to your friends and accept who you are and hone that in, I think it's a challenge that you can also overcome. So first of all, I think I would say we can work everywhere. That's the best part. But we need a platform. We need the country, we need the government to back us up as artists, as creatives, because thinking about being a designer, you have to be ahead of time. And I think a country needs designers to push things forward. We're moving into the future. We're in 2020 now. We need to have flying cars at this point. So I think there's a big market, but we just need people to really invest in us. And we can work in every field, from the banks. You need people who understand how to use an ATM. That's interaction design. That is you interacting with that machine. I build interfaces like that make your life easy to withdraw 30,000. Anyone, whether you're a girl, whether you're a boy, I think you just have to be a person who loves to solve problems, because you really need to understand people. There's a psychology into it as well. You have to be empathetic. You have to be someone who's very understanding and who doesn't mind sitting down for 10 hours trying to find a solution to a small problem. You need to have resilience because you can help a wider demographic of people at the end of the day. I think firstly I'd say, do you like technology? I think that's a good start. And what field would you want to end up in? Because interaction is so wide, right? That was just my major. But there are different sections where you can focus on. There's analytics part, where you understand people's thinking and psychology. And that can put you in a field where you can work. Example, I'll use the bank again. It's a perfect one. You can, because thousands of people come into the bank. But there's some people who'd rather not come to the bank because the lines are very long. So you, as an interaction designer, you can solve a problem by simply saying, why don't we have an app where people can quickly access whatever they need on their phone, whether it be phone, tablet, or laptop. So you have to think, what can I do to make people's lives easier? Also, let's say people in the townships who don't have access to high tech. What can you create on a simple Morse phone that will make their life so much easier? That is also a big problem that you can solve, being an interaction designer. So I think those are the tips that I can give. But secondly, I think you need to have ambition as well. I think that fuels your drive to create change. I think don't be intimidated. Another thing that I would add onto that is being a female, being a girl. There are a lot of challenges. I remember in my class, I was the only black female in my class. And it was just a sea of, boys. And sometimes they look down on you. Not that because they want to, but I think it's how things are set up sometimes. They think that women can't really be in a place where they have to think really creatively, very analytically. They have to really dig deep. But I think being assertive and knowing who you are as a girl and say, I can do that too, that could be a great way for you to excel in interaction design. I feel like that's a problem that you can solve. For me, I was like, why not? If white men can dominate this space, I would love to be the first black woman to dominate the space too and excel. I think I love challenges. They help me to move and think forward. They help me to solve problems so that I can help other people too. So I think with that, I felt like I could open a door for other girls who look like me and say, I can dominate the space too, because most people don't understand what it is. But if we can create our own apps, our own smart interfaces, including, banks and looking at other places, I think it's a great opportunity for us. So one thing that my lecturer taught me, he said, being a designer, most times you want to be biased because you're designing that thing. You're sitting down day and night creating something for people. It's so easy for you to be like, I think people would need this, but it's not about me. I need to remove myself and think like the other end of the user. I need to really detach, and we have to create personas. So that this is how it helps us. So we do research work, right? We go out into the field, we research about maybe 20 people, and then we get 5 people out of that research that we know that they equal the demographic, whether they're female and male, depending on what you're creating. And from there, you create a persona of at least 3 people maximum, but it's mostly one person. That persona is just something that it's out of the data that you have just acquired. So you know that this is your user. So example, your persona will be, this is John and this is Edith. John and Edith are this age. So we're looking at the age, we're looking at where they live, their income. We're looking at maybe whether they use the computer a lot or maybe they use the phone more. Maybe Edith is more of a mobile user. Maybe John is more of a laptop, desktop. He has to sit down and really feel that he's working on something. Let's create an app that caters to 2 of them equally. And then that's how we create an app at the end of the day as a designer. It's a coin. I think it's a double side. I'll start with the positive first. I think having access to the internet, your mind is broadened. You get to see the outside world from your home. You don't have to travel to China to understand what China is like. You simply can learn about it from the internet. And that helps you to understand different cultures. That helps you understand to think much bigger than the little environment that you grew up in. It really helps you. I think it's like it kind of teleports you. It's like a time machine where you're able to travel in places but not really be there. You learn so much from the internet. But on the other hand, it can be negative because things in the internet are not always filtered. You get bad things and good things. And sometimes we get to see the bad news a lot because it's not really monitored. Everyone can post anything. So it's very dangerous because you can have access to really bad things. Like fraud, for example, if you're not really safe and you don't know how to use the internet and you're buying things online, fraud. People can steal your identity, they can steal your money. Also crime. You can get yourself into trouble if you're not really sure how to do it. But I think if you go in slowly, learn more about what the internet means, but what are you looking for specifically, it helps. I think that's a given. That's a given because, as I said, there's a high demand for interaction designers. This is a new concept, or not really a new concept, but it's been there for a couple of years, I think since 2009 per se, but not really, they didn't really understand it quite well. And I just got into it since 2017. And there is a lot of money. I've got to say for sure, because if you search right now on Google and say interaction design salary, it starts from, if you're a junior designer, maybe we're looking at, in rands of course, because I'm in SA, we're looking at maybe 30,000 rands. That is a starting point. And we're looking at, if you're a senior designer, interaction designer, we're looking at 90,000 to 100,000 rands. So you will be comfortable, but you have to put the work in. The 5 year mark, I'd love to be in a space where I'm really in tune and working with different companies. I'm always a person who loves to be in a different place. I've been in South Africa so far for 3 years, but I'd love to just understand the market. And in 10 years, I'd love to come back to Malawi and build companies or work with companies so that I can cater the same things that I've gotten from South Africa and bring them here. I'm mostly working out. I try to keep a healthy lifestyle. So I love to go hiking. I love to go for walks, definitely. I think being also in tune with nature is very helpful. As much as I love the tech world, I understand that you need to have a healthy balance. Sometimes when you're so in tune with the tech, you lose sight of existing and what's really out there. So traveling for sure. I love going to the lake. I love hiking. I love biking. I love working out. I love hanging out with my friends. And yeah, just existing. So just to leave with a few words of inspiration, there's a quote that I really live by, and every day when I feel like I can't do something to make an impact, I always think about this quote by Albert Einstein that says, "Necessity is the mother of all invention." This quote means so much to me because it's basically saying that you need to be a problem solver. And how can you solve problems to your current challenge, your current situation? This really inspires me because every single time I thought I couldn't do something, there was always a solution at the back of my head to say, maybe I can really solve this problem. My name is Grace Tembo. I am living my dream, and you're watching Times TV.
Well, I sure hope that after looking at her graphic design, her photography, as well as her interpretation design, you also are inspired to make your dream into a reality. You've been with me, Sharon Chirwa. Do keep watching Times TV.
Let me start that one here. Like how Martin Luther King would have started. My dream, my dream, my dream, my dream, my dream. Tell you my dream is to live my dream. Hear the most I in me sleep when me sleep. Tell you